You are now in the mix. Black Pew Podcast. That's right, PEW. Black Pew Podcast. It's your boy Trey up in here. We got the lovely
Alicia.
Your boy Marv.
The homie Marv. Just to give y'all a little bit about what our podcast is. This is the first episode. We covering everything from sports, from dating, from relationships, real life, mental health, society, pop culture, every single thing. Politics. I love politics, actually.
Alicia's aggression.
Yeah.
Can't say specific names. You're referring to conditions. Marv. Yeah.
But we're covering everything.
Iteration.
No topic really is off limits.
Really?
Yeah, there's no. I don't think nobody's. There might be one or two.
Come on, you said no topic.
I'm trying to
I
think
feel
of
like
what-
there's no topic.
I'm pretty sure you can come up with the opposite.
I can get all of
I
them.
know.
I
Like,
got them all.
I don't know. People, you know when people used to snap back in the day? Like my mom is
There's
off
certain
limits.
things you can't talk
about
no,
my mom. You
I
can't.
go for the jugular. I'm going for kids.
I was about to
I
say
will
babies,
go
but you already
for-
went there. You already went there.
I'm talking
the
about
babies gotta be off limits,
everything.
but
If you're
I guess
coming for
babies
me,
ain't off
I'm gonna
limits.
get to like, why is your left eye? Why is that lazy eye? I'm talking about medical conditions, everything.
See, I avoided the
Nope.
circle because like when at high school there was this foyer.
Yeah.
And you didn't walk past the foyer unless you either unless you were looking crispy or you were pacing real fast past it because
You weren't gonna look at anyone
Nope,
either.
you
No
weren't
eye
looking, nope,
contact.
because-
See, I had my
As
spot
soon
in
as
the
you make
foyer
eye
because I
contact.
played basketball. So,
Oh,
yeah, so I was the guy. You didn't walk past
Yeah, exactly.
me because you was finna get ranked on. You
Exactly.
feel me?
Y'all was the
So I
ones-
understand.
I was smart. I tried to be the young lady who was braiding the basketball player's hair. I wasn't trying to be in the mix or nothing. I'm just trying to be in
One
the spot,
time,
you know.
one girl she
Out
had
loud.
Adidas with the 4 stripes.
Mm.
She walked past.
Aw.
They it was like a flamethrower. They lit her
But
up.
I
There was
know.
the Reditas, you
The
know. It
Reditas.
was
See,
like
but you couldn't even help
it was
it.
like they had to put an extra
You
stripe
couldn't
on
even
it,
help it when
really
you
just
grew up
to
with it.
reestablish.
No, it
That's-
was hard out there.
Yeah,
it was
man.
hard, man.
You
I
know how hard it is, and let me tell you how ugly it is right now. Just think about Champion. You know, like think about how
Oh man,
I
you used
do-
to get ranked for wearing Champion.
Champion was at Kmart.
Definitely was at Kmart.
Hey,
And
Les.
it was thicker than it is
Hey,
now.
Les.
If you
You got more
look on
respect for buying Shaq shoes
Yeah,
than
yeah.
you did for wearing
Yes.
Champion.
LA Gear.
And now
LA Gear.
Champion is like you the dude. If you got Champion, it's status redeeming.
You know what
got-
frustrates me is the feelers. I know you
Oh
guys
no,
probably
no,
like
the chunky.
it makes me
I wanna-
really
I wanna-
unhappy. Like, why are you guys buying? I'm not buying no kids those feelers.
I want to take them off. The
Go back
people
in
that
the
wear
time to get
them.
mine.
I want to
Mine
take
were
them
better.
off, and I want to burn
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I think they're terrible.
But they ruin horses too.
Oh,
Yeah.
The same people they ruin horses, and I'm like,
Horses, yeah.
you're not hip. You're not like take those off.
Okay, but so then I have a question because I have children, and my children don't know anything about anything off-brand. Period. Like, what is off-brand for them? They don't know anything, and I realize I've damaged my children significantly.
Yeah.
Because the other day, my son, so he's used to drinking. This is so basic. He's used to drinking filtered water out of like the Brita filter, and so I threw away the old one because I was like, I need to get a new one anyway. So he went a week having to drink Washington faucet water, and this little 6-year-old had the nerve to ask me, "Mommy, are we poor now?"
See, that's the thing.
I
Like kids
said,
ain't never drank
"Boy."
out the garden hose in the front of the house.
I used, yeah.
Like
The iron in that water.
Mm-mm.
so, it's funny
He
because
said, "Are we poor now?"
well, it's funny. I was watching this thing. Anthony Anderson. He was talking about how he had cut his children off
I seen
from his funds.
Oh.
You know, and he was talking about how because his son dropped out of college. His son went to Howard, but his son dropped out of college with no job. You know, wanted to be an aspiring actor, rapper. And he was like, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to do that on your dime. You're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and his son's doing well, but he said that there comes a point to where, like, I think we protect them from the things that they need to learn. Like, and so even like with our generation, like, you got to think of like a lot of people's parents didn't do that bad.
Yeah.
You know, like we had roofs over our head, we had clothes on our back, you know, food on the table. But there were some hardships that we just had to experience as a kid. Like our parents would say no. Like, they could afford to get us better things, but it was like, no. And maybe that was just a lesson thing. So now we don't have a problem with doing that, but our traumatic experience from that makes us enable our children. So it's like, well, I'm going to make sure my children don't have to drink out the water faucet, water hose in the front yard. Not understanding that that's character building.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, my children don't have to do any of that. My kids, like, I didn't have sour cream in the house until I was 18 years old.
Which is why he was about to run away when he didn't have filtered water.
My kids, I didn't know what condiments were.
This is a third world country. This is a concentration camp.
My kids get to choose what. I be making multiple meals and stuff. They're like, I don't want pancakes. I'm like, okay, which, it's terrible because you're right. It was trauma when I was young. I was like, I can't never have anything I want. Shoot.
See,
my mom was always saying no.
But they didn't teach us why they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the thing. They did it, but we had no idea why they did it. It's like my dad. My dad was the first one gone, the last one home. I always knew you had to have a job.
Yeah.
Why? Why? With the things that you do with these things, like. You don't understand. You just have to work. Have an income. What do you do with your income? I don't know. You just have to work, And so, that's why credit and things like that are big with people now because a lot of our generation didn't understand the ins and outs of credit. We have bad relationship with credit. Yeah. And so now we have to teach people like how to have good relationship with credit. And that's credit's not a bad word.
The whole going out of the house, like I saw my mom every morning. She went out the house, worked, and came home. And so, now, even working, I've worked too much sometimes. Yeah. But for me in my head, I'm like,
that's what you got to do.
That's what I got to do. And, people are like, don't you get tired? And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I know I'm going to go home at the end of the day.
And you've seen it.
And I seen my
learned behavior. But it's learned behavior.
I'm getting ready to marry for money in like 20 minutes because I am tired of working.
And it's so funny because I was talking to somebody about that today. Like, how do you put yourself? It's how do you position yourself? And that goes back to that C word, credit. People don't understand. Like a lot of these businesses that we call corporations and stuff like that. We're started off of credit, but you have to position yourself to be able to make those moves. And we don't really have that. Like we've been conditioned to think if you had cash that you could be able to maneuver, but you can't buy a house on cash. You really can't. Like they gonna look at them credit score, all that stuff is a factor because they want you to take that loan. They want you to establish that. They want you to establish that way.
Unless you got the whole.
You gotta have that 400,000.
Yeah.
And also, and you gonna be dropping that in the suitcase.
Yeah. And then they're gonna be like,
how'd you get that money?
How'd you get that money?
How'd you get the money?
Are you guys reenacting a movie or something?
Yeah. They're gonna be like, how did you?
It was actually my dream last night to buy a house. Just drop the suitcase.
I love just drop the suitcase. Buy $400,000. I ain't buying a house.
Did you see the stock market stuff going on with the stock market and GameStop?
I seen that.
I haven't watched my stocks.
This higher appreciated like 300% or something like that. One day, like some people retired off of
GameStop went up like crazy. Well, what happened was
overnight.
It was like the month of January, GameStop went up like between December and the end of January. GameStop went up from like $7-8 to like $450 a share.
It was also a lot of people are saying it was a market glitch because I don't know if it was a product coming out, but there was a product coming out and a bunch of guys were like reviewing, like trashing the product. So what they did was they trashed the product and so that the stock of the product dropped, and then they bought up the entire product. It was like a group of guys. Well, yeah. And so when that happened, it just like it surged that market, the GameStop market, and so it just appropriated just like something crazy overnight. Like people were making crazy money off of GameStop that had like this stock that they thought didn't mean anything.
Yeah, because and then the people on Reddit, they saw what's happened with GameStop. They said, okay, the stock market people who've been doing this for years shorted the stock. But shorting the stock means you know it's gonna go down.
Yeah,
like
no,
you know, like you're like, hey, the company's not good. I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
They
do that all the time. They do that all the time.
Nobody goes to GameStop
Yeah.
anymore because you don't need to go to GameStop. Most of the games online.
It's like saying Redbox service.
Yeah,
or Hollywood Video.
Yeah, exactly. And so they saw that the stock market people were putting it down on purpose. So there was a Reddit subreddit. It's called Wall Street Bets, and they always talk about stocks and stuff like that. And there was like 2 million plus in them.
Wow.
And so they said, nah, we're gonna try to help this company. So they were buying up a bunch. They were buying 10, 20,000 shares. And so they were driving up the price so much that they ended up costing the main company that was shorting the stock, that was betting against it, like $70 billion. Like they're all in total, like $70 billion.
Pretty much what they did on Wolf of Wall Street.
Same
Wolf of Wall Street,
yeah.
all they were doing was they were taking the penny stocks, and they were having people put tons of money into the penny stocks, you know, and so that's the same thing that they did with GameStop. You know, it was like a bunch of people that they devalued the stock, and then they just they pumped tons of money into it. So the people who still had the stock are one of those who profited from it.
And then now it's back down to like 70. Now it's like 70 right now.
Because a bunch of people cashed out.
Yeah, they said.
We know they gonna stay this way.
And I myself, I was like, man, if I had bought it out, I would have cashed out at 400. I'd be like, I see y'all later. I'm out too. So okay, so first.
I'm not getting too weird.
First topic of the night. Marv, about this player. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Seahawks.
Oh my God! So we got this guy, Chad Wheeler. If y'all didn't know, it was pretty horrendous. He beat his girlfriend, his living girlfriend, within an inch of her life. He was charged on a couple counts of domestic violence and resisting arrest. There was a couple red flags in the situation to me because we already have, you know, a couple civil things on the rise as far as like Black Lives Matter, and this is a white guy, so you know. Sometimes I feel like I should have had to disqualify myself for the fact that this guy is white, but there were some things that were red flags to me. It also on how the police handle the different parties, and when these things arrive, we get to see two different Americas. You know, we see Jacob Blake, where you know he gets shot in his back 7 times or whatever in a resisting arrest situation. You know, and they claim he had a weapon. In this case, you know, this guy he beats his girlfriend. They come to arrest him, and they had to tase him as well. They said that did not work. So how they subdued him, not 100% sure, but they're saying the taser worked to a lesser effect. He still made it into jail, and without gunshot wounds or anything like that. So that was already one problem to me. So it was hard for me to look further into it, but I had to look further into it. And so going further into it, the reason she's saying that he beat him was because he wanted her to bow down to him, and she declined. And so he beat her. He even told the police that he beat her and thought he killed her. You know, knowingly saying that, you know, to me, I feel like he made it to attempted murder. Yeah. But they don't handle it to that case because now he's claiming mental illness. So 2016, he was clinically diagnosed bipolar. He was under meds. His girlfriend said that he awarenessly stopped taking his meds. So my thing comes to this point where, especially in football, when we have domestic violence in football players, you know, is there a label of enabling them to, because of who they are and the access that they have, that they end up getting smacks on the wrist for these altercations? And when can mental health no longer be used as an excuse for like heinous crimes like this, you know? And so that's what really brought it to my awareness. It's like, when are we going to stop allowing people to use mental illness as the cop out to why they can treat other human beings like that?
See, that's like, it's this, I guess it's like there's two sides to the coin. It's like, one, you don't want to don't want to lessen like the importance of mental health and what happens with somebody's mental health and how it can change their life and how it can ruin so many things and it's the real problem. But like you said, on the other hand, it's like, okay, like there's sometimes we can't claim it's a mental illness if you didn't do enough to, like, did your mental illness flare up? Or did you decide, I don't care about my illness, I don't care about anything, I'm just going to do this to this person. And it's like...
It's a very fine line.
He's sipping a smoothie. He's sipping a smoothie and
right.
saying, I thought you died.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, actually, time out though. He left to go get the smoothie.
I can't even.
And came back.
Like, I'm not calling 911. I thought I killed her. She was unconscious.
Well,
like,
she called 911.
She called 911. He didn't even care.
And that's the thing. And she called 911. He didn't care. I think this comes to a point where.
No.
And it's also not his first. So that's what I'm saying.
So,
it's not his first.
It's not his first. For him
it's not
to
his
be
first
so nonchalant, do we not see, like, that is a parent? That's not.
Yeah.
That's beyond mental illness.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
I got a mental illness.
Definitely.
Yeah. We gotta say, hey, hey, your mental illness.
But see, this is
the dude is 310.
But this is what happens. And this is what I realize what happens in this conversation is that when you invoke mental illness, you take away a suspect.
Yeah.
You create two victims.
Yeah.
And so that's where the problem in the discussion has.
We never get to be a victim.
Yeah.
We never get to be a victim.
Well, time out. Because I'll tell you even this. Even when you look at R. Kelly, right? So let me tell you something. You look at the R. Kelly. You look at surviving R. Kelly. They even go into the his past, and so
Look,
there comes a point to where he became victimized by his past. So you had sympathy for why he was the way he was on his victims. Now you don't have a suspect. You have two victims.
True.
But in this situation, come on.
I hear what you're saying. You call it a reach, but he also has documentation saying that he has mental illness. So what I'm saying
bipolar is different than like flipping out schizophrenic.
I hear what you're saying.
But some people say no.
I hear what you're saying.
Some people
But he also has documented history of this is not his first time beating a woman. You know, like he did it in college. You know? And so what I'm saying is he has a documented history of this as well as a documented history of mental illness. So what I'm saying is in this situation, he turns from a suspect, automatically he can victimize himself.
Okay.
And that's what it did to me. What I'm saying is I'm not condoning that. That's where the problem becomes.
I agree.
Because we're not having the proper conversation about mental illness, mental defects, mental disease. You have Aaron Hernandez. You know, Aaron Hernandez, who killed himself. He killed himself after being acquitted from 2 murders, which means that whatever he was facing, it was going to be knocked down.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
He probably would have been able to see his kids again, be with his family, all that. But something pushed him to killing himself. Now, some people say, well, it was going to be revealed that he was gay. Now, understand this: when you live in a violent life, because football is a violent sport, when they did a CT scan, it was pretty bad due to the level of concussions he's had. So does he lose his level of rationale to where his only level of rationale is violence?
I would completely.
You hear what I'm saying? And so that's where it becomes the suspect eventually does become a victim. But how do we know what playing field to allow them to be the victim and when to make them stay the suspect? And that's where the conversation comes, because there's an overlap between neurology and psychiatric work, because they have different practices, but they try to attack the same problem.
And I completely understand that. All I'm saying is that there should have never been any bail. I mean, okay, he is, removed. He needs to go into. He needs to go into a hospital. He needs to go into a psychiatric. He needs to go into a psychiatric.
I didn't know he's bailed out.
Some of these things that I tell you as a black man, I feel like it disqualifies me to talk about some of these things because there's a different level of white privilege that went on here. I mean, now he definitely would. I don't say that right now. But what I'm saying is that one, he can talk about his story. You know, One, he can talk about his story. You know, two, he was able to, with a heinous crime like that, he was able to immediately bail himself out.
Yeah.
You know, now people will say, well, he got dropped from the team. But even if you look at the statement that the team made, they weren't even saying we're disgusted by his action.
Yeah.
These are horrific. They were just saying we're saddened by what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, they let him go, but they let him go eventually.
Yeah.
But if there wasn't a big enough
He
outcry,
rushed the Capitol. He rushed the Capitol.
If there wasn't a big enough outcry, they would have been like, well, he's gonna get help.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's saying nothing.
They would say.
But how many times it never even gets reported though?
No, you have to search for it, you know. But when Ray Rice punched his wife in the elevator,
he was done. He was done. Well, no,
I mean,
but
look
the NFL reinstated him.
but where is he playing?
He ain't playing nowhere.
When he get a contract picked up, Colin Kaepernick
We stand
kneeled.
up for yes,
Colin Kaepernick,
yes.
Colin Kaepernick kneeled. He
We
ain't got
stand
no
up for
contract for that.
something.
You know, Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, he got domestic violence cases. I'll even take it below. The beloved Seattle Seahawks used to be now Kansas City Chief Frank Clark got domestic violence cases. Like all these people, they pick and choose who they want to be able to give these opportunities to. Antonio Brown, he still got allegations that he's fighting over. He about to play in the Super Bowl.
He about to play in the Super Bowl.
He didn't even get his attention. He's not even on timeout. They were like, you can still go.
Well, so there's a level of notoriety where you can get away with it for so long, you know, and that's another thing, you know. So are we enabling these behaviors? And you think about it even further than that. I mean, these guys, you know, they're number one in their high school when they grow up, number one in college when they grow up. So and getting drafted to a league to where now they're an average Joe unless you know are number one in the league. So that takes a toll on you too. I mean,
I didn't know she was black.
yeah, she was black. See, you know what I'm trying to say? See, I didn't want to. I wouldn't help. All right, I wouldn't help. No, I withheld certain details. I withheld certain details because of this. Because
I'm
of this.
so done having because I'm about to make it sound completely different.
It was
I don't
no,
wanna have
because
this
this can't go. No, believe me. Hold on, Lease. So when I first had this conversation, that was something that did bother me. Believe me, because I was like, oh, I thought it was Becky with the good hair, but it wasn't. You know, it wasn't. You know.
This goes to show that we are the most endangered species on the planet, black women. You guys think that you are, but the moment that you get her outside these doors, there's 5 black women you done dogged out, treated like trash, who are going to come to your defense. They're going to stand in the front of a podium and say, oh my gosh, let's fight for a try, you know? But let me go ahead and get detained. Some white guy, big old white guy knocked the mess out of me.
Oh,
Where's
so
my banner?
So they ain't fighting for Breonna Taylor?
Man, they are fighting.
I'm just saying, like, we can say that everybody's fighting. Everybody fighting. We all fighting. I think that's the thing.
No,
like,
I don't think that we get.
I think that there's so many fights. I think there's so many fights going on.
We do not get the amount of respect.
I agree.
And love.
I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you.
I agree with you.
But I do believe that there's so many fights going on that there is no focus on any one fight. You know, like.
But
so
why isn't that? Because when it was you guys, we fought for you. Like we've always been fighting for you, and that does not come. It's not reciprocated.
But it's always us. It's still us.
I don't know about it's not reciprocated. I don't think. I agree that it's less. It's
significantly less.
It's less because like you look online, there's a lot more black people. I would say black men who won't say as much for somebody like Breonna. Like it's situations like Breonna Taylor. But I felt like that was a rallying cry. Like,
but it had to be associated with something else. If she would have been all on her own, I do not think that she would have gotten the attention. I don't think that if she was like if it was something that happened 2 years ago and it wasn't around another.
Well, now time out.
It wasn't.
Let's be real. Is that the reason that Breonna Taylor got the attention? Was because there was already a conversation going on. No, hold on. That there was a conversation going on nationally, and people were like, "Guess what? We are not fighting for this woman right here." And so that's why she came to the forefront, is because people recognized that the lack of fight that we had were fighting for the Trayvon Martins and the Michael Browns and all that, but we weren't fighting for the Breonna Taylors. And the only thing with the problem that we should have had with hers was because we fighting for the Michael Browns and the Eric Gardners and all that. But there's still some discrepancies in these stories with Breonna Taylor. There was no reason for her to lose her life.
True.
You know, and it was a heinous crime by the police. Still to this day,
and they hit it,
and you know exactly.
They hit
and
it.
so
that one and Ahmaud Arbery. I think
yeah,
they both hit around the same time, where they was just like,
I feel you though.
Like,
I feel you though. There is a.
That girl was pretty, and he got her face looking like that.
But now I want people to understand.
She's a piece of trash. Like, oh, I'm sorry. See, now just because I see her face now, the fact that it makes even more sense that you would just let her be there, whatever room she's in. She means nothing to you.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a smoothie. I am a piece of trash to you. If it was Becky, I'm just saying.
If it was Becky, they would have kept him in jail. They would have kept him in jail.
Now I want to drop a little nugget on you when it comes to black women too, like that I realized too, just about from a black man's point of view, is that if you realize the pinnacle of a black woman, to everybody they mean everything. Is because when we talk about systematically removing like a man from the home, moms, you know, single-handedly like raised black America, if you really think about it, that's what moms did. And so it comes to a point where it's like, when you look at the black woman, you look at like the pinnacle of strength. You see what I'm saying? So it's like one of those people that you feel like you can't fight for because you always had to, like you couldn't go stand up for your mama because she'd be like, boy, back down. Yeah. You couldn't stand up for your granny because they'd be like, boy, back down. You know, it was like this level of defense because they knew that it was all on them. And so there becomes this mental, what would say, condition that America has, black America has when it comes to black women, because we've been taught that they can fend for themselves, and when you try to come in and save them, they're not appreciative of that hero mentality.
And it's not that it's not appreciated, it's that you're bred as a black woman, you're bred, that's all I know how to do. If you leave, I just know how to pick it back up. If you're not there, I don't know how to say, oh, please come help me. I just know how to, okay, I got to do it myself, you know. And it's funny, I have conversations with my female friends who say, I'm going to start playing more of the damsel. And it's sad that we have to condition ourselves to say, okay, let me step back and let him carry something, because I just know I didn't have a dad in the home, so I know how to carry boxes. You know what I mean? Right. So I understand what you're saying. I respect that. Thank you for even saying that. That yeah, it is kind of we have bought into exactly how we're perpetuating in society.
But is it? I feel like that conversation is not as much they bought in, like that the black women are like, oh, we're just the strongest ones.
I don't think they bought in. I think everybody else around them.
Yeah,
and I don't have anything else. Why are you saying they?
Because you.
Because
we're talking about just more than you. Okay.
But I think a lot of black men.
We can talk to your regression issues.
A lot of black men haven't stepped up enough. I mean, and I can say, growing up, I can see it growing up, because there were situations where there were some black men who I've seen in family or in other people's family who really didn't step up. But the black women
always
they
always
step
up.
Yeah,
it's 85% women. It's 85% women.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Always love Jesus.
But at the same time, I think that
because Jesus is supposed to be a man. Every black woman that ain't got no husband is getting married to Jesus.
I can't say that.
She's like, I'm getting married. Jesus is my husband. I'm gonna wait to judge me.
We looking like
no. You need to get you some real life.
Like wasn't you out with so and so last weekend?
Oh no, it'd be some of them real ones talking about they gonna re-hold themselves. You know, you really need to get you some real life.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yes.
Jesus is not waiting for you, baby.
Jesus wants that for you.
Yeah. He's waiting for you, but not like that.
Okay.
Okay with you.
He's not waiting for you like that.
Okay, we're gonna switch topics. What about the stimulus? Did you? Okay, first question. did y'all get the first stimulus?
I didn't get the first. They don't even respect me at all.
They didn't respect me.
I got the first one.
When you got children and stuff,
Man.
you feel me? Sometimes they try to take the stimulus, you feel me?
Did you
They
get the
took my
second
first.
one?
Oh, I got the second.
I didn't get the second one.
I
don't even.
I don't know those hurts and pains. You feel me? I only know the first stimmy hurts and pains, but the second one and this next one coming, I don't know them hurts and pains. I don't know, but I feel for you.
Not
You feel me?
respecting
I'm
anything.
I'm looking forward to the third one. I got the
No,
second
do
one.
you know that there's a tax bracket for the stimulus?
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. I don't know why you guys are trying. So, like, some people don't get help and they need it.
Yeah, but I make all right money, but not too much money.
I know,
so
I
I'm
know,
cool.
I know, I will fall in between.
So you feel me?
It
said state. They said like what? It was at first it was 75.
It
They
said-
lowered it to 50.
And I think they're thinking about lowering it to 50. Right now it's
They're
still
thinking about lowering it to
75. I hope they keep it at 75 because at 50 I'm like
50 pushing it, but I just did my taxes. I'll make it under 50. You feel me? I'll make it under 50.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
But do you think that the stimulus? You think that it was? You think we need more?
Well,
No.
You think some people need less?
What you're about? So what I truly believe is that it's opening up a whole new world to where people are going to be able to financially depend on the government, and that's where I think that's where we're heading. And the reason why I say that is because if you think about it, before the coronavirus popped out, before anything, you had Andrew Yang. He was on the forefront, and he was talking about that global economics to where
Basic income,
basically,
yeah.
and where we would get a dividend off of America or whatever.
Very similar.
And it was even though nobody else knew anything about his policy, that topic right there kind of gained some traction with him. And even people don't even know that the Biden administration was actually trying to work with him to give him, but he's actually going to campaign for the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
And so,
But they're doing it in different cities though.
Exactly. So that's my whole thing is that that conversation is going to become like that new norm, is because we are in a new normal, and that's what people are. You got coronavirus and that may dissipate a little, but we are in a new environment of infectious disease. So when the next one comes or whatever, and so now there's going to be a platform to where we might going to have to shut down again, you know? So what does that look like? How are Americans going to be able to stay in the swing of living life when we have to shut down again? And I think that this is the platform for that.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, because I seen that, what is it, Scranton, is it Scranton or Sacramento, I think it might be Scranton, where they give people basic income, like they give you, like, no matter what you do, you get $1,000 a month on top of whatever you do. And people are like, I use it to pay my bills, I use it to start saving, and I use it for this, and that. And I think that I think there's something to that. Like, hey,
And yet they didn't have money for reparations.
Reparations is an emotional thing. It's not a strategical thing. It's an emotional thing. Everybody else gets reparations. Natives have gotten reparations. Asians have gotten reparations. They have when they signed the Emancipation Proclamation, it put measures in order for reparations. They don't give Black American reparations because there's a little bit of emotional ties there. They can't, and then we all know that.
Well, what the slave owners got.
They got the money.
They got the money.
They got the money. They got the land. So what it was supposed to really be honest, like an honest-based system, to where they figured that plantation owners were going to divvy out money and land, and that's not what happened. So they just kept it all themselves.
We just gonna
because there are instances, and a lot of people don't know, but there are instances of people who did inherit their 40 acres and a mule back then. Because and so like we have this conversation on the forefront, like nobody's gotten it. Like there were people who had retrieved it, but it's just like
they didn't keep it forever.
Yeah,
they didn't keep it forever. Whether a lot of them were driven out.
Or
a lot of them driven out or driven up north.
Of course.
Yeah.
And Ku Klux Klan became very prevalent, and know, they was burning crosses on people's front yards and all that type of stuff, and killing people. And
I was listening to a podcast. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about like during slavery. One of the things that was that some white people didn't like was that the unskilled white laborers, they really couldn't do much.
That doesn't.
They really couldn't do much because before slavery and after, because for one, there was a lot of slaves who had those skills and who
they were already agriculture, agriculture and all
carpenters, all that stuff. They were the labor force.
That's not a lot different than now.
I mean, that's true. Not. But at the same time, they were
cheaper labor.
I mean,
also cheaper labor. What do you think Mexicans are?
I sometimes feel uncomfortable giving people money that are on the streets, and I'm like, I know a black man who has a job, so the fact that you don't, it kind of makes me uncomfortable because I know you know someone. Like if you're a Caucasian male, you know somebody that got a job, or you have something like you are. It wasn't just the most horrible setup for you generations upon generations.
Yeah.
No, if a black man can get a job in America,
you can get, and I think that's one of the things that
it breaks down to laziness.
And but they don't. Nobody wants to say it. They'll say like that. Those people are taking your jobs. Those people are getting things over you. Those people are getting these handouts, and it's like after a while you have to look at it and say, if you're really against, like, what are you really against? Like, what
now,
are you really against?
This is where I'm gonna play devil's advocate because we kind of did some of that to ourselves. We take McDonald's. You look at McDonald's now. You look at the average, age of McDonald's and who work there. It's older, middle-aged Mexicans. McDonald's used to be somewhere where teenagers used to go and get their job when they was in high school or whatever. And then guess what? And guess what? They got stuck at McDonald's and folks was like, "Well, you too old to be working at McDonald's." You feel me? And so cats was like, "I need to get out of McDonald's." You feel me? And so now when you say go get a job, people ain't thinking, "Oh, let me go apply at McDonald's." They thinking that they finna get them a desk job that pay them $50,000-$60,000. No, you need to start at McDonald's. You feel me? I started at McDonald's when I was 15, 16. Cinnabon. I started at Cinnabon.
But McDonald's pitches the fact that you can work here, get a full-time job, you can get a degree, we can get you an education, we can even put you in our entrepreneurship program, and you can get your own McDonald's by the time you're out of this program.
Yeah.
So,
now, how many people actually went through that McDonald's course? You feel me? Because guess what? They all Mexican. Don't speak any English. You feel me?
Out here. That's not true. Come on,
man. You go to the McDonald's on Rainier. You remember the McDonald's on Rainier by Alberto's? Guess what? They renovated the whole thing, and the whole thing Asian. That's what I'm saying, and they're all older people. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is it's became to a point to where the people who have the work ethic and the drive are working those jobs.
Yeah.
You feel
Asian
me?
people don't care. They don't mad. They will get down.
Now the thing is that nobody looks at the fact that they can go in McDonald's and probably become a general manager, maybe a regional manager, or nobody looks at the fact that they could possibly do that, because we perverted having a McDonald's job. It's not good enough. You got to do better.
True.
Not understanding that there's careers in anything that you work in. You can walk at Walmart, you can work at whatever. If you do a good enough job, you can make a career out of that. If you can shovel a dookie at the zoo, eventually you can run that.
Yeah. As long as you love it, though, you gotta have that.
You gotta have a passion for it.
That's how I teach my kids. Like, I don't care what you do. You don't need to be a doctor. You whatever you do, as long as you love it, because that's what happens in society. And of course, with celebrities, they kill themselves because if you don't love what you do, that power, that getting to the next high, that money, everyone looking at you, that will kill you. You better love that stuff, or it's that you're a rat.
If I worked at McDonald's, everybody see me in that McDonald's visor and everything would drive me to I need to get away from behind this counter. I can't be a cashier no more. This is killing my drip. You feel me?
But there are people who will not have a job because of that part right there.
And that's what kills me right there.
Yeah.
That's the part that kills me. Instead of using that as motivation to get to the next level, we use that as why we can't start.
But we care about what people think. That's what if you care about what people think in 2021, I do not know what you're doing in your life.
And see, so what I've learned in 2020, and I call it in 2020, people use this a lot, but 2020 was a year high.
It was wonderful.
But one thing that I did learn was there's a lot of things that we do and we don't understand why we do it, but as society, we actually help with the narrative, and so you think about like something like that, like somebody not wanting to work at McDonald's because it's not cool or whatever. We instill that in them because now it's like, think about me as a grown man. You know, if I was trying to approach a woman and I can feel confident that I worked at McDonald's because she don't accept me. You see what I'm saying?
You had to say like,
it's not that. See, me as a working man, me knowing me a working man, I know me. Yeah. I would be confident that I worked at McDonald's. I'd be like, hey girl, I get 2 for $1 Big Macs. You feel me?
It's not you, it's women. It's women because I say all the time, if he's working, I'm with it because women, all we do is add to the game. So if he's working on the fry cook, by the time he leaves by the time we part, he better be a manager because all I do is like support. I got you. What you need?
That's why they should have been listening to Kanye West before his mama died because he said that in Gold Digger.
I gotta go through the whole song.
Last verse. It's just last verse.
You gotta go through the whole song.
Where's my brain is set
up? Oh man.
Say it, rap it.
I'm not about to Kanye can't even make up his mind, so I'm just letting you know what he's saying.
We're about to bounce from where they at? Wyoming? They're somewhere. He about to be out though. They said he packed up his shoes.
Oh, he packed up his shoes. It's real.
It's real. Yeah. He said he packed up his shoes, and you know, once a person packed up their shoes, or once a woman throws his shoes out.
For most dudes, it's like the Xbox. Once he pack up the Xbox, he's out. You feel me? Yeah. Kanye pack up his shoes, it's gone. He's gone. He's okay. You feel me? Yeezys. Oh yeah, it's a wrap.
If I'm at somebody's house and I'm sitting on the edge of the couch, I'm ready to go. If I'm like this,
yeah, I'm usually standing up. If I'm standing up, if I've never sat down, that means yes, I'm ready to go as soon as I got here. You sit down and get comfortable. I'm good. Sit down all day.
I'm good. I've stood in the foyer before. Like I'm not going in there.
If I'm on the edge of the couch or if I didn't take my shoes off, I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
But so it's funny because we were talking about this before we got on air, right? And so we were talking about Instagram and just like person-to-person contact. And you said I'm just talking about like a dude approaching a female, like having the confidence, of his social status. Now, what's funny is, and I'm being a little transparent here. There's been a couple of times where I've met like women in public, not that I've known on social media or anything like that, and try to engage people in public. And it seems like people are more uncomfortable now engaging in public instead of using their social medias to hide behind to engage and have a persona. It's like people rather put on this persona that they have online rather you see the real them first.
Yeah, no, I get that all the time. I get that all the time. And it happens so much that guys, when they approach me, they think I'm going to be like that. Like, they're like, oh, so what are you really like? No, I'm really like this all the time. Like, it's no better or no worse than this. Like, people are consistently having representatives, which I guess they call them now. But, yeah, and it's unfortunate because there are a lot of good people out there who really want to be seen, but no one is wanting to engage, like, in real life. Like, they're just like, okay, just texting, and why are we texting?
Like, have you ever seen somebody just randomly have a conversation with a stranger? Like, I mean, in the past 5 years, just Think about it.
I mean, I do that kind of.
I do that.
We're talking about you. We're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about just like.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, how often do you see like just two random people just meet? Like, how often do you see somebody focus on anything else?
Because people are so tied up with like, oh, the last person I tried to talk to, she rolled her eyes and called me a weirdo. Okay, get over it. I'm not her. Like, approach me. Because guys, I notice a lot nowadays are extremely timid. You guys are like afraid of any form of rejection.
But I don't think it's about the form of rejection. So I think it has to correlate with the difference between the persona that people have online and who they are in real life. And because you have this thin veil between social media and realism, people don't understand how to approach people in real life nowadays. Because
but I think a lot of it has to do with it does have to do with rejection, because some people just don't like. I know I've not talked to people because I'm like, I don't want to. I'm okay with taking the L. But there's some L's I'm just like, I can't even joke with you no more on Facebook if I take an L from you. So you know what? I'm not even gonna play this game. But I think a lot of times, like you said, the persona of somebody on social media, people are afraid of, like, they're like, oh, you're that, and so I don't want to even, like, I've had a lot of people who are just like, you seem like a flirt in real life, and like, real life, you know me, everybody who knows me in real life.
You're totally different than you are.
I'm super quiet.
You are.
Yeah, you are.
I'm super quiet.
But so this time, like Beyonce, she has Sasha Fierce, which is like a totally different persona than who. So she talks about like how she can watch herself perform and it doesn't register to her because that persona is a totally different person than who she really is, right? So if that be the case, like how many people are actually somebody that they're really not online? And that gives them an opportunity to be more fierce or more outspoken, more. Well, and the only reason why I say this is right because there was one day, and I could be reading this wrong, but I see this girl, she's coming out of the store, right? And I'm like, hey, what's going on with you? Right? Hey, hold on, no. I'm like, hey, what's up with you? And she got happy feet, like running to her bed. And at first I was like, and I was like, okay, whatever, and I got in my car and I'm driving off and I was like, that was awkward. Not by me, but by her, because at one point I could say, hey, what's going on with you? And somebody could say, not interested. And I could live with that.
Yeah.
See, so I have made a vow to myself. If it is, and I'm not being rude because I love our culture, if it is an African American man, whether it be out in the streets or on social media, I will always acknowledge his existence because I do think it is rude as a black woman. I can't say, she was another race, whatever. But as a black woman, I do believe that it is rude to completely disregard or not acknowledge. Like if a man is saying, "Hey, he thinks you're attractive," I knew I came out looking attractive. So if somebody said you look good, I
think the place also matters too, because if it's at the gas station or if it's outside the corner store, I think is warranted a little bit to be like.
No, unless he's asking you for money. I mean, I think you can give him a nod. I've got the AOs.
I think those are the most genuine. I think those are the most genuine places to meet people.
Yeah,
because usually that's when you catch people with their guard down. It's like people are in their normal.
But the grocery store now with the mask, you can't you can't really.
You can get face-to-face catfish now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you feel me? Snapchat was doing the same thing, So I mean, it ain't no different, It ain't no different than a Snapchat filter,
I'm just surprised when guys try to talk to me. I got a mask. I'm like, what are you looking like? Okay. I mean,
I have refrained from trying to talk, the Mac game with the mask on.
Yeah, because
I feel like I'm in Saudi Arabia or something like that.
But then you're like, I might want to risk it. But then you're just.
There's some risk.
Risk it for the biscuit. Like there's a risk. Yeah, there's a certain risk. You're like, okay, I might be able to swing. But then you also, if you get the whole 6 feet thing now. You get too close, people start freaking out.
Yeah. And coronavirus is like the new age. Somebody find out you got coronavirus, they just like, hey, stay away from me.
Yeah.
new age. You feel me?
If I know a guy is like checking me, like if I feel him in my peripherals or whatever, I'll take my mask down a little bit so give him like, yeah, it's good. She's all right.
Oh, so you just be out trying to get hot. She got maneuvers and everything. She like, oh, he peeping me. Let me mask.
She got her mask like, oh, I gotta
pull the future out there. She a mask off. You
I
feel
did
me?
the coldest
Future.
thing the other day. I did the coldest thing the other day. I was macking in my peripherals. I was at the furniture store and I knew he was looking at me and I was like, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Game.
Buying the love seat, huh? Buying the love
it's
seat,
a wrap.
huh? You buying the love seat.
No, I was talking about me. Like,
don't.
I was like, don't even.
He was like, I'll risk COVID.
I was like, no, he's looking at me. I'm like, look, I wouldn't talk to me if I were you. Just leave it alone. And he just goes for it.
In the
like,
love seat section, just the
two of us. She gonna plop down in the seat. She's
I got a free share for that one.
She just told us her go-to to tell you, don't come talk to me because I want you to come talk to me.
Because he wants to be told, don't talk, because I know you're looking at me like, So.
And every man wants to be told no, so he can put that no into a yes.
No, see, that's the thing.
Very smart. That was smart.
That's
you know?
the thing, though. I take a no for a no. I take no. I'm like,
no.
All right, no. I'm
You're
like,
the
all right,
only
cool.
one. You're the only
I'm
one.
Because I'm like, oh, because I don't know. I'm like,
come get it.
I'm like, no. Like, once I take that no, I'm okay. I'm like, thank you for playing.
I love to know. I love to know. It just means that I gotta, you feel me? You just ain't been convinced to say yes yet.
You're one of them. And it's funny because, like, you're right though. They got there's those like that, but then there's those like you, Trey. That it doesn't matter. You can have everything together, and you're like, I don't know. Or Trey, because I know you. Like, if somebody doesn't text back enough, like, they might have a busy week and you fall off on some text, I just be like, delete.
Oh, yeah. If you
don't
fall off on the text,
I
get bored, I forget who you are.
I do that too, though.
You just sit as a unchecked message.
You know what's so funny is the fact that we still have each other's numbers because sometimes we don't text each other enough and it should just go on and I be like, and then every now and then it'll pop up and you're like, damn, I still got her number. And it's saved in my phone.
You know what?
I usually delete them numbers, but it's saved in my phone. Like, oh, okay.
That is funny. I do the same thing.
They don't text me at all.
No,
so
I text you, Trey. You guys probably got the longest standing numbers.
I know. That's the thing. People Facebook message me. I get so spastic. I'll be like,
no. Trey, don't text. So I had a moment in my life where I was like, I'm not gonna go. So I went social media free. I'm not gonna do social media. I said, Trey, here's my phone number. Don't hit me on Messenger. Text me. When I came back after my hiatus, I had mad messages from Trey.
You're like,
I'm like, bro, didn't I say text me?
Well, I
be forgetting he has a cell phone.
I do. No, that's not true. That's kind of true. Sometimes I'll be like, the first platform I message you on or I got you on is the one I'm sticking with. That's like some people be like, they'll message me, then they'll message me some on Messenger. And I'm like, nah, text me. Like, you got my number.
I need to keep this dialogue going right now.
Yeah. So
it can't be in different places.
But we about to get out of here. Thank y'all so much. Black Pew Podcast. Hit us up on Instagram, Black Pew Crew. That's it. We'll see y'all next week, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Peace.
Bye.